Suno, which can hopefully put Disney out of business by auto-generating preferred songs. Crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty interesting, like with Netflix, right? So when in 2008 or whenever, right, Netflix started coming into the scene, right? Somebody asked HBO or the Warner and Brothers, like, what do you think about this new thing they're coming in? Because they started producing content now. And they're like, it is like Albanian army trying to take over US. And you know how it goes, how it went from there, right? So you never know. Suno will come and disrupt Spotify, right? Who will listen to human music?
Suno's good.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
actually listen to Suno as much as I listen to any other new music.
I don't hear.
But there's a lot of bias in those, right? I mean, so if you look at kind of generation of Indian classical music, for
Yes.
example, and one of the areas that India has always lagged behind in is generating digital data that can be utilized, right? I mean, it's only recently that they started doing it, but you know, back in even the year probably 2000, a small Eastern European country, Slovenia, they set up to create translations of all of Wikipedia into Slovene. And so there's more digital data out there that allows better translation now than even for Hindi,
Yeah.
right? And so we are constantly lagging behind in this process. I feel in terms of generating data that represents Indian culture and Indian context.
Ethan Mollick had a very interesting prompt that he shared a few weeks ago, which roughly is along the lines of asking Claude, any other model, if you could go back in history, any point in time, and make one change that would make humanity far better, what would it be? So the answers were stunning. So I took the same prompt, made one change, replace the world with India. Claude said, in 1200 BC, I would go back to Nalanda University
And make it.
and document every single piece of knowledge that we have in an interoperable way, in a single language. A small variation of the prompt is, now if you go to the future, what would people say would be the single best regulation in India that we could have enacted in 2025? And in this case, it was ChatGPT that said, A, every single contract, government edict, all of it should be machine reader. It have to be data that we can process, and this will be the single biggest uplift that can happen. Sorry, absolutely.
Of course, there is a second side to it, right? We keep talking about the demographic advantage that we have in India. As we feed the digital data into AI, that demographic advantage is very quickly going to become a disadvantage as well. So it's a double-edged sword.
It is all I think, but like if you think it, like Sarvam or most of the companies are playing Indian game, right?
Right.
Like addressable market is huge for them, but not in terms of dollars, only in terms of business,
Absolutely.
right? So where do the business economics works out depend.
Also, it has a very diverse culture and data is
Very
also
long tail,
heterogeneous.
very long tail.
Heterogeneous,
It's
so
not necessarily for the business part.
No, but we also have
It is
huge
for the
amount of
sovereignty,
humans to
Yeah,
actually
which is
help us
what
annotate.
essentially I am.
Yeah.
We could very easily annotate a lot of information across all the diversity.
We are actually annotating for the world, by the way.
Yeah.
So
We
you
are
know,
not for
where
ourselves.
is annotation taking place? Like
No, but
almost all services company at this point of time have billion-dollar business in annotations.
no, but adding to your point, Aaron and right? The point that you guys raised is not just for countries; it is also for organizations. Like one of the challenges I've always faced with organizations is the CXO will always tell me we have petabytes of data. But when you actually go in and start working and you do all the chip chops, what you're left with is only a handful of data. And the standard answer to that is what is the ROI? So this requires visionary kind or a dictatorship model, either of the two, where the one at the top says that no, we will do this no matter what happens, because we understand how valuable this culture is.
We are doing it right. I mean, the video that we are gathering is, in a sense, who knows what we can make out of it. But the number of derived artifacts that we are able to get out of any content, evals themselves is a derived artifact.
Yeah.
We are discovering preferences. We can rejig this into another format. So when you said who validates a validator, so take a paper, put it into Claude, and ask it to summarize. Then I said, look, it will summarize in some rubbish
Yeah.
form. So the question was, whose style will be best to summarize this and think about that. Give me a bunch of options and then pick the best amongst those and summarize it in their style. Claude picked Paul Graham and ChatGPT picked Richard Feynman. Both great summaries. Makes a very interesting read.
Yeah.
Another derived artifact then is I said, okay, so ultimately this paper seems to be talking about Evalgen. So build me Evalgen. And Claude says, okay, fine, here is a version of Evalgen, but here are five things that I cannot do in the browser artifacts. I cannot create Python scripts. I cannot run Python scripts without Pyrodite, which is too much work. So I will instead switch to JavaScript. I cannot run some more complex preference algorithm, so I will switch to a simpler preference algorithm and built it. And Evalgen is kind of or a crude version of Evalgen is working absolutely fine out here. When samples,
Pretty good, yeah.
so the number of derived artifacts like this. So my next one is going to be create a sketch note of this,
Yeah.
which can be.
By the way, all these slides are generated from Notebook LM. I haven't even edited them.
So the value of that dark data, if you will, is now increasing much more.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I think the amount of time that human used to spend on these tasks, like creating slides, creating this automatic infographic, like the translational content, will just reduce. I think there's more. There's a probably we will expect more in these in-person meetups where I can talk, where I can nudge Anand, right? But then just I mean I can see his talk or whatever like in an infographic, much better way, much better form, and maybe better ask questions when I meet rather than
Kids will
In,
no
in
longer.
his case, no, but
Yeah.
I get the point.
I learned from remixed versions of my talks myself. No, seriously, I record my meeting conversations and I ask it what are some of the insightful things that happened in the conversation.
Oh, okay.
It paraphrases some of what I said as insights that I didn't know were insights.
Like how many blank filler words you use in a.
No, not
No.
at that level.
No, content level.
At the content level, see, it's just this particular thing that you said is actually a broad industry trend and is something that will scale dramatically.
Nice.
Acha, oh, I didn't think of it as something that will scale dramatically.
Like I mean, I don't know how many. Like it's my favorite hobby to run strategy talk. Like when I run product strategy or whatever, and I just say, am I saying it right? I mean, what could be the pros, cons? I mean, even going deeper, right? Like why do you think it will not play out? Or what if it happens? Like how it play? Like simulating that because in your mind just stops thinking at one level deeper, and then like mind is very lazy, right? In that way. So but if once you start reading there, then you also start thinking like more collaboratively.
Yeah, no, actually, sort of counter point on modified compliment to
Yeah.
evals is exactly what you said, which is scenarios. I made the largest ever financial investment of my life using the following prompt. ChatGPT. These are my preferences and a good 8 minute long voice input. Now tell me where I should put my money and do this by exploring what are all the scenarios the world's countries, India's financial system can go through. In each of those scenarios, evaluate your options, see how they will likely perform, and then pick something that will align with my risk preference. So it said, yeah, there is a in the next 3 years, it said it is virtually certain that RBI will lower, I think, the interest rate. Yeah, lower the interest rate. At that point, anything that has a fixed interest rate, they will become far more valuable. Therefore, go more towards the debt mutual funds. And out of those, these have lower cost. Like solid 1 hour analysis. And I just put my money where it would. But I think the confidence level that I had became much higher because of the what ifs.
Yeah.
What if the interest rate actually does not reduce? What if China declares war against Taiwan? Look a whole bunch of scenarios.
And
You,
people,
you
people
did
do.
not have to prompt it for the scenarios. Those were generated as well.
Yes.
But you could prompt it,
You could
right?
prompt
Like for
it.
example, when you and I talk about investment planning, you will all like yeah, नीचे तो जा सकते हैं ना. And like if you just be very vulnerable and say talk to about it, it's much better actually. I've seen that. Like the more vulnerable that you are about your insecurities and all that, it's better. Awesome. But I think what would have been better, Anand, in your case, right? But how do you guarantee that it would not be hallucinating some little, like, let's say you're trying to figure out companies to invest and maybe it hallucinated one growth rate or a metric, and then, of course, that translated into you, like, look at error doubles, right? And then you ultimately end up, right? So how do you make sure that the analysis that you conducted had integrity?
These days, the low hanging fruit for me is ask it to double check. Go back, find all the mistakes that you made,
Yeah,
and after two attempts, it generally fails to find any errors.
yeah.
Second order, if it's really important, is to ask the same question to three models. So yesterday, for instance, we had a meeting where I was given a government document saying, "Can you please critique this?" And we have only about 1 hour. So give it to Gemini, give it to ChatGPT, give it to Claude, ask them all to produce their analysis, and then take all other pairs of analysis, give it to the other models and say, here is what other models have said. Cross check against yours. What have you missed? What have they missed? Integrate, synthesize, and then across all of those three, whichever I just feel like reading the best pitch. Until day before yesterday was Claude, but with GPT 5.2, that's gently changing. Put it into one of those and then say synthesize. So cross model thing also seems to work. I have not validated the reliability of this.
I think one of the things that the LLMs these days are doing really good is that they're adding citations to whatever
Yeah,
they
yeah.
are doing.
Yes.
You can always go to your citations and double check.
But the thing is, when you are doing 50 citations, it's virtually impossible that you will and listening to him, and this is the idea that is clicking to my mind for some time now, is that I think there is a pretty much good product to be built which just does whatever you have done by autonomous. I mean, like calling multiple guys for the right thing, verifying across each other.
Andre Karpati has built the first.
LLM Council is just for sure.
Yeah.
Please.
LLM Council.
Yeah, he has launched this repository. I'm not very deep into it, but it's something that works together to answer your hardest questions. It's multiple models that it uses. Stage one is like first opinions. The user query is given to all LLMs individually, and the responses are collected. The individual responses are shown like in a tab view. You can see all the responses separately. The stage two is review. Each individual LLM is given the response of other LLMs. Under the hood, the LLM identifies identities are anonymized so that LLMs can't play favorites when judging their outputs. The LLM is asked to rank them in accuracy and insight. And stage three is the final response. The designated chairman of the LLM council takes all of the model's responses and compiles them into a single answer.
This is
That's
precisely
Exactly.
what we need.
Yeah, majority vote, and once you start doing it, it becomes much better. But I think what I will also argue on the other side of it is that you actually lose the personality there. Like a lot of time, like I personally prefer ChatGPT from the get go, right? Not Claude or Gemini or whatever. Like Gemini, I think feel lost after two turns. Like with ChatGPT, I prefer because I think he. ChatGPT and I got into a personality which I like and vice versa. Right?
So, but there is an interesting perspective, right? Anand, to the point that you made. So, before the experiment that BlackRock and JPMG and a couple of these who put in a large amount of money into hedge funds and stuff like that, right? They have always had the best of the class analysts who suggest what strategy to adopt, short term, medium term, long term, all this stuff. They have done a lot of experiments to find out how good are these machines in exactly what the experiment that you did. What they have found out is that the strategies that these systems tend to suggest are often different from what their best in class people are suggest. They are not same. So the way they operate is there are things which we are not able to kind of figure out or outside our competence realm or whatever you call it. Right? There is so much that we as a team can think. Here are a couple of new class of suggestions. So there is this fundamental argument called machine output versus human output. So even when you're talking of music and art, can they really produce Mona Lisa? One is just copying thing and all that. We understand mimicking part of it. But there's this underlying argument that even Ethan Malik and a couple of others are exploring, which is fundamentally so far machine outputs or machine intelligence different from human intelligence. So the way they tend to use this is in strategy there is a concept of red team.
Yeah.
Right? The idea is to come up with the vaguest possible scenario that can actually wreak havoc on your strategy. So they and I don't know how to, but I read this somewhere where a couple of topmost strategists within armed forces also use this to plan certain war games and stuff like that,
Wow.
right? What they found is that it gives you a different perspective, something outside the realm of what we humans are typically able to come. So are they same? I'm not very sure. Someday, if you can share what is the ROI on your investment.
It's no. Okay. So the last 3 months it's good, by the way. But this actually prompts me two thoughts. So one that you build the GDP well visualization during
Data excellence. Yeah.
Okay, so something that Pawan built, and actually maybe we can project that the URL in case your system is
Yeah.
working, then tell you the link. But you've probably seen the GDP val paper. If not, OpenAI conducted this study where the URL is sanand0 sanand0 dot github.io slash data stories slash just go there. Oh yeah, slash GDP val slash okay, yeah. I just scroll down on the. You'll see a GDP band somewhere, the right side. Uh, yeah, that's the one. If you just click on that, this is what Pavan created from the GDP band paper. So what this shows is across different occupations, how much does AI beat humans by based on human expert evaluation. So green is where AI beats.
Oh, this is from that paper which came
It is
in.
literally
Oh,
GDP.
okay.
So, if you look at the finance,
Iceberg paper, right? You're talking of the ice.
No. This is economically meaningful value task.
exactly.
Like
So,
how AI is doing on economically meaningful.
take an example. If you can click on maybe any one of those, just click on one of those.
That's the project management.
So in Project Manager, it gave them 5 tasks. One of them was, maybe you could just expand any one of those tasks. You are a project manager supporting blah blah blah. This task is given to bunch of models, and this is a task that has been crafted by expert project managers and evaluated by expert project managers against expert project managers, saying, A, this is something that will actually increase the economy of the country, the company, whatever. So it's real stuff that we do. Now, who does better? And on project management, we find that, and also, if you could close this, the size of the economy, basically the GDP of or income of all of the project managers is about $100 billion, which is the size of the box. So on this, the models are winning at a 42% win rate. So humans are still better, therefore it is reddish. But on the software developer side, we're winning 70% of the time. My inspiration basically came from on the finance and insurance side. You just look further down, finance and insurance. There's a green on the right side.
This is finance investment analysis.
Personal, exactly. If you click on that,
Yeah.
or no, sorry, further up. No, not that.
Not that one.
Further up. Just above that, there's a green box.
Left side, yeah, the
That
vertical
is-
one.
That is personal financial advice.
Oh shit, yeah.
When I saw this, I said, okay, why would I ask my banker? I would put my money based on whatever Claude says, ChatGPT, whatever. So, I think that the new ideas are perhaps already, AI is giving new ideas that are perhaps already translating into economically valuable activity. But the hallucination part of it, I am leveraging in a slightly different way. If you could go to tools dot uh, tools dot s anand dot net yeah, and slash ideator slash enter
And
enter. This is the idea here is I take notes. So let's randomly pick 2 notes and combine them. So it's randomly pick one note from July, which is rev.ai does a good job of diaryization.
yeah.
And some second random note on 10th August where it says you can extract hacker news comments. Some 2 random notes. Now, supposing I want, if you scroll all the way to the top, my objective or goal there, I have put in an editable one, say an innovative web app. So, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there is an ideate button. Just click on that. It simply opens ChatGPT with a prompt, a detailed prompt that tells it how to create Oh, achha, you don't have.
No, that's okay. I have it. I have it.
Okay.
Just say that what you're doing, you know that.
Acha, okay. So this will eventually open. Acha. Oh,
It'll
okay,
go
okay,
around.
fine. So if you could just scroll up to the prompt or the way to the top, it says you are an expert idea generator. Generate this idea. Here are two seed thoughts, and here are some mental models you can use to generate those ideas and so on. Just run it. Let's see what it comes up with.
So you take two random ideas and just mismatch them and to create something meaningful.
Correct.
Okay, awesome.
I've been doing this about 20, run this 22, 23 times. That's all in the last 4 5 months because every time it comes up with something, it blows my mind. But I have not gotten to the point where I have actually implemented even one of these ideas. So there is some gap somewhere which hopefully will.
I think it could just like a lot of time I worry like I have some random idea clicking into my head like this is like why can't these ChatGPTs can run let's eval step by step. Why can't do they do that? Right? There's one random idea. Then another random idea, why can't they be open router doing whatever, right? So these clicking and I think if like just keep putting into some place and then this randomly proactively it does something, right? This is mind blowing.
And one of the ideas that it came up with that was not too far is something that Ritesh had built recently, and a whole bunch of people. It's a very small, simple one, but oddly seems quite powerful. Ritesh, what's your GitHub account? Okay, you go to Ritesh Ritesh 17 RB dot github.io slash strategy with a capital S hyphen game with a capital G. Strategy hyphen game with a capital G slash. And click on the board game. Oh wait, hold on. We have to. Do you have an OpenAI API key handy?
No, I don't.
Okay, click on the board game on the
This
top.
board, yeah.
Which it's a pretty okay.
Why do you have to access? I can log into my. I think I do not have it.
No, okay. We can do one thing. AI pipe should work, right? Okay, could you? No, that will not help. If you could open AI pipe in a new tab, aipipe.org, that will give you a key you can use.
Okay.
This is the same system we are using for TDS also. I think.
Yes.
By the way, LLM Foundry still up. Or-
Yes.
AI pipe.
.org.
Shit.
Dot.
We don't want to record.
Yeah, we don't want to record.